Good day, everybody. This is Arnie Fertig, head coach at Job Hunter Coach, and I am thrilled to have with me today one of my great clients, Dave Markey. Dave is one of the creative folks in our world who makes things that we all look at and value and understand, makes things understandable for us. And so I want to introduce you to Dave, who's been working with me now for several months and landed a great role. And Dave, welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Arnie.
So why don't we begin by just having you introduce yourself a little bit. Tell me what it is really that you do.
So I lead creative efforts. I'm a producer. I have a deep background in video production, but also multiple forms of media production. So I've led video production and marketing campaigns, the creative end of that effort, as well as entertainment products.
Great. And what was going on in your job search? Why were you looking for a job, and what had been going on before you and I even spoke the first time?
Yeah, so my fiance was going through graduate school, and that required us to move around the country a little bit. We met in Cincinnati. She got an internship in Atlanta, and I decided I wanted to go with her rather than try to do a long distance thing. But I couldn't keep my full-time job and work from Atlanta at the time. This was before the pandemic. And then, that internship was only for a year. And so then we were going to move back to her hometown of Boston after that. So I was kind of adrift away from my hometown. I was going to need to get started in a new market and reestablish my career somewhere new and hopefully exceed, what I had been doing up to that point. Hopefully, I wanted to accelerate my trajectory in my career.
Great, great. And so, how did you find me, and what caused you to seek support in your new job? Coming up into a new environment as you were doing.
Yeah, so I think I was probably in the midst of staring at my computer screen, putting together applications for hour after hour, and I think it was one of Arnie's ads came through my Facebook feed, and it said something along the lines of how hitting the apply, the easy apply button is the wrong thing to do. And so I was curious. I watched it. I watched the video, and everything he said made sense. And it also seemed that you knew things that there was a lot to this process that you knew that I didn't know. And so that, having felt kind of lost in the process,
Mm-hmm.
I figured, yeah, let's get on a phone call with this guy, see what's up.
And then we talked. What made you decide ultimately to work with me?
I knew I had to do something different. I knew I needed some advice. There was the added bonus for me that you were in Boston where I was going, and so that felt like a value add to me. And I said, when I've been faced with these sort of decisions before of whether to invest in myself or not, I've always gotten something from doing that in the end. Like I've always leveled up my understanding of things.
Right. So when we began to work with each other, what were some of the first shifts in your process that you began to see?
Well, I think overhauling the resume was a big help for me. I think
Mhm.
that was something where I was there. There was so much advice out there that conflicts, and it's hard to know. Okay, do I make it short and concise, or do I make it long and exhaustive? And I think that what you did to my resume and my LinkedIn profile was had a lot to do with later success.
Yeah.
Success will come later. I think that your emphasis on networking and personal branding was something that was like how that connected to the job search was, you explained in a way that made sense, that it had not before. So I think that, whereas before there's just so many different avenues you can go down in a job search, and knowing which ones are most productive
Mm-hmm.
is hard. And I think that you helped me kind of like cut out the unproductive rabbit holes and focus on the things that were going to ultimately yield results.
Yeah. So as we got into the process of doing this search and you got the foundational documents done, the resume, the LinkedIn profile, you learned how to do certain things, day in and day out on LinkedIn, which you really came to excel at. What was the experience of looking for a job like for you?
It had ups and downs for sure.
Like
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yep. There were days where it felt hopeful. There were days where it felt, where I felt lost or wasn't sure where I was going to land, or thought I was going to have to set my sights lower. But then I think people around me have commented on how positive I remained through the process and how persistent I was.
So the mindset element that we talked about over and over again really played a part.
Yeah, I'd say for sure. Yeah, it's you can definitely fall into a pit of despair in the job search. But I think that, and so part of your teaching and something that I am glad that I was able to make happen was to stay positive and stay productive and stay creative.
Right. So tell us, or tell me a little bit about your interactions with my private group of other job hunters.
The group of fellow students is amazing. It's one of the best parts of the whole program. Folks there have been tremendously helpful. I've gotten referrals. They've had connections to opportunities that I was pursuing, just because it's a very diverse group of people, and they were they're searching for jobs too, so they're not full time at any of these employers I'm looking at, but they know people there, and they've made introductions for me, and those people have made referrals for me, or made more connections for me. So that was a tremendous benefit.
What did you think about our group coaching sessions?
I think those are great. I think the group coaching sessions are great, and I think that it's nice. It is a lonely process, as we've often said, and I think that was part of my struggle before working with you, and I think that having other people that are in it with you and going through some of the same things is helpful, and also people that are maybe earlier in the process or maybe struggling with something that you have a handle on is a confidence builder. It's like, oh, I do know something about this process.
Tell me, you've landed now, and we're going to get into that a little bit, but how would you say that your sense of your own self has changed by going through this process together?
I think I've become a lot more, I've gained confidence in this area of job searching, and I think confidence overall. And I think I've, at points I've not been certain of how resilient I am as a person, but I think that this has given me a better feeling about that I'm, the resilience of it. And I think that, a lot of people have trouble talking about their own accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you have to do all the time in the job search.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of getting, I'll say, desensitized to finding a way to do that that doesn't come across as arrogant, comes across as sincere, and comes across as, hey, look, this is the value that I can bring. I think that that's a lifelong skill.
Yeah. Dave, I want to say that you were, I've got a lot of really wonderful clients, and it's been a joy working with you. And one of the things that's from my perspective been wonderful is the fact that when I talk with people at the very beginning, I talk about 3 traits you may remember. I talk about, one of those traits is being coachable and being somebody who shows up and somebody who is, definitely committed to their own success. And you have shown that day in and day out. You have been an exemplar for others in our group, and it's just been a joy to work with you. Tell us a little bit about the job that you got.
Yeah, so I got a job as a senior video production manager for a startup that they have an app for its meditation for fidgety skeptics. It's called 10% Happier, and they produce a lot of video content, and they needed help. They need help kind of organizing that process.
Wonderful. How are you doing salary wise, compensation wise at your new job compared to what you were doing before?
Oh, it's great. It's fantastic. It's everything I could have hoped for. I was just at the point in the job search where I was thinking I need to set my sights a little lower and take something maybe a little that I'm maybe overqualified for. But they came through with something that coming out of a pandemic and where I was kind of freelancing before,
Right.
It's way above that. It's a significant improvement over what I was making at my previous employer, where I was, by all counts, undercompensated.
Yeah. Can you put a percentage or an approximate percentage on where you're going to be now in your new job versus where you were at your last full-time job?
Yeah. So versus my last full-time job, I'd say that I'm a third higher, 30 to 40% higher.
30 to 40% higher compensation, having gone through this program and worked with me and the other people in this group. How does that make you feel?
It's great. And I think, honestly, one of the biggest things that you taught me right off the bat in the first lesson was, like, they're going to ask you what you want, don't answer. I certainly bungled one job opportunity before working with you because I didn't have that tip.
Okay, wonderful. What would you say? I mean, there's going to be people that are going to see this conversation and they're going to say, should I really make the leap? It seems like a lot. It seems terrifying to put myself in the hands of somebody else. It seems like I ought to be able to do this for myself. It seems like a big investment. What would you say to these people that are facing that bridge of fear?
Yeah.
As opposed to looking at this as an opportunity? What advice would you give to them, and why?
I would say that it is scary. I hung up the phone with you after making my payment, and the hair on the back of my arm was standing up on end. But I also, that was a really interesting experience, because I thought to myself, it is those experiences that make your hair stand on end that really make a difference. And so maybe the fact that I didn't have anything like that, and I was kind of in this unemotional, rational, like, assessing all the different articles on the internet on how to do the job search.
Okay.
Nothing was making my hair stand on end, and that's why, I didn't do it. So I felt that I think that the biggest wins in life come through sacrifice, and it was a way of part of the difficulty and the sacrifice and the commitment it takes to to say yes was I looked at that as fuel for why it was going to work.
Yeah. Dave, do you have any regrets? Do you think this was a bad decision in any way?
No, I think that no, I don't. I think I can see how I could have made things work sooner. Like I certainly learned through the process, and and to kind of tack onto the question before, like you're definitely going to work really hard as a student. This isn't Arnie finds and gets a job for you. This is you work really hard and Arnie kind of points you in the right directions. So I no, I don't have any regrets, and at points I wish I thought that things should be coming together faster. But in the end, I think the role that I ended up with is definitely going to be worth the wait.
And so you're happy with this decision, as you're as happy working with me as I am with you. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, the bump in salary and the connections that I've made, all of that stuff has made the cost like insignificant.
Yeah. So it's a well worth investment for you and for me to put my time and my effort into you. I appreciate it. Dave, thank you so much for coming on air today with me. I really appreciate it.
Happy to do it, Arnie.